I'm Allie. I came out after 20 years of marriage and I have 3 kids.
I'm Melissa and I have 2 kids and I came out at 37 after an 11-year marriage.
This podcast is about coming out later and the struggles and victories that come with it.
When coming out feels like the end of the world, but it's really just the beginning.
This is the Lesbian Chronicles. Welcome to the Lesbian Chronicles. Here we are. Melissa, did I catch you mid-sentence?
Yeah, I was about to say it's extremely hot in my house right now. I've been not running my air conditioning except for at night, and today I've hit my limit. I'm turning on the air conditioning.
I'm starting to I hate to even say this out loud, but I might have had, and I still get my period. This is probably way too much information, but I might have had a hot flash. I'm not kidding.
Maybe that's what's happening to me.
Because I literally got so hot the other day, and now I feel like Maria's messing with me. I'll be like, is it hot in here? And she's like, no, not at all. Trying to make me stress about it because I'm totally stressed. I'm hot all the time.
I'm not a hot person, but there's a storm outside right now. You might hear thunder too. And I didn't check the weather. I took my dog for a walk and literally I'm a half mile from my house and I hear thunder, lightning, all the things. I was like, we got to go. It was coming quick.
Right.
And so she and I ran our little tails home. She did pretty good. I'm surprised for being such a little tiny dog.
Now she'll be chill the rest of the day.
Let's hope so. No, probably not.
I want to hear about Nashville Pride.
Yes, I have to make a retraction over the past 4 years. I've been bad mouthing Nashville Pride and saying that it's not that great.
It's not you, Nashville. It was us.
It was us, 100%.
It was us.
Nashville Pride this year killed it. It was so much fun. There was tons of booths, and I have to say it was a little bit better than Atlanta.
Whoa.
Not the parade.
Oh my God, that's
blasphemy. Atlanta's parade.
That's I don't agree.
They had Fletcher perform. Jill Biden was there.
Jill Biden's big.
All this stuff. I was just holy shit. And we also got to go to the Lipstick Lounge, which was a really cool place. It's an iconic lesbian bar in Nashville. Of course, as all lesbian bars, it's very small. But it was still cool. It has a little downstairs area with were doing karaoke up on a stage, and then upstairs is a cigar bar, which when I first went in there, I was like, I can't do this, but luckily the smoke kind of dissipated and I didn't even notice. No one was smoking in the area that we were in, and it was just a chill, couches, hang out, talk. Our friend Dariella got recognized for Second Friday. That was hilarious.
Sweet.
Someone pops in there and they were like, do you do Second Friday in Atlanta? And Dory's just yeah, that's me. So
we should tell people though that the reason that we had ill feelings is because I think when we went several years ago, we were both, mostly you, but just in a rough patch. So it was this depressing weekend.
Yes. And it rained. There was a tornado.
It sucked.
I don't know if you remember when we were at the festival on that Saturday, we were about to leave and the wind kicked up.
Yeah.
And we had to run and hide out
in the
parking garage.
Yep.
It was a lot. So, and I think we stayed in one, in the little VIP area. So I think we might've segregated ourselves from the fun.
Right.
But it was a good time.
Segregated ourselves from the fun.
I saw some great artists too. I'm hoping to maybe have some of those people that I heard play on the podcast at some point. One of them was Sonia Lee that came on several months ago.
Yeah, I love her.
So, and I met one of our fans came up and said hello, Amanda. So that was cool.
Shout out Amanda.
Yes. So all in all, good time.
I'm very excited about today's episode because we have a really kick-ass guest and author named Dawn. How do I pronounce your last name, Dawn?
DiMicco.
DiMicco. Okay. Do you know I have an Italian last name too? I know. My last name is Vaccaro. So I love it. Anyway, thank you so much, Dawn, for coming on.
Thank you for having me. My girlfriend arranged all of this for
me. I
know.
When I got, it was like perfect timing, which I sometimes think is like the universe, because our guest had was a therapist that ended up having something come up and had to cancel. And right then her DM came in, and I literally was like, well, thank you, universe. Like so I thought I would just like try, and it worked out.
It was perfect. She's done that a couple times now. And I'm like, hey, could you just give me some context on
who are these people?
Who are these people?
And I do a bunch of different types of podcasts, so it's not always on this particular topic. So I was like, hey, what am I walking into?
What am I talking about? Well, it's funny because
we're talking about lesbians.
I called Melissa and I like pitched the your girlfriend's like the pitch to Melissa. I'm like, I think she'd be perfect. And Melissa's like, what? Like this just fell out of the sky? Yeah, she's perfect. Line it up.
I have yet to see these pitches that she sends out places. I'm like, who am I talking to?
She's got a whole like pitch page for you.
You've got a whole management team.
You got a management team. Yeah, exactly. We need a PR team. Maybe she'd come do a few things for us.
She might.
I love it. Well, thank you, Dawn. And I guess like I'll let you kind of introduce yourself, because what I know about you is you are a coach and an author and just, she said, overall like life enthusiast. But in addition to that, you are born and raised Catholic, as am I. So I know that has some implications with being gay. So I want to get into all of it. So go ahead and just like tell us who you are and what you do.
Okay. The quick nitty gritty, I am a speaker, author, and a coach. So Sweet. I coach a couple different things. I do online fitness and nutrition coaching, but I also do business coaching for online fitness and nutrition professionals.
Okay.
So I basically help personal trainers and nutrition coaches take their business online and use a different model. As far as the speaking and writing, I write on mindset, productivity, and confidence building.
Oh, nice.
Confidence building. I like it.
Right.
Super fun.
How long is this? Is this like you've been doing this a long time? Like how long has this been going on? This is new.
This is newer. As you know, we'll get into, I came out late. I've actually, you looked through my social media. I don't scream straight. Nothing about me screams straight. I've only been out a year and a half.
Really?
Oh, wow.
Actually, not even quite that long. I was the last to know.
Okay, so go back, rewind, because that's what we really talk to me about. Like,
I was like, I mean, I wasn't really the last to know. Maybe I was the last to admit it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and yeah,
single or were you married?
Oh yeah.
Okay, give us start at the beginning.
Okay, let's start from the beginning. Rewind.
Forget the other boring stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was, tomboy growing up, all into sports, didn't care about hair, didn't care about clothes, but I didn't actually grow up in the Catholic faith. I did grow up with a faith base. My mom made sure I went to church, but my family themselves, they weren't super religious. That's nothing that was ever pushed on me. I think my mom believed that you should have some sort of background, and then, you decide as you grow, as you age. I really came into my faith when I was in probably middle school and high school, where I was the one actively seeking out, and then lost it for a while in college, got back into my faith. And I really was connected to non-denominational churches for years. I converted to Catholicism as an adult. So 9 years ago, I was working in youth ministry. At the same time, I was the vice president of spiritual life for the Protestant women of the chapel within the military community.
Oh my God.
And I started going to mass and going through the RCIA program, really just to learn about the faith, because it was non-denominational youth ministry, but we had Catholic youth. And so I wanted to make sure that, what we were teaching was in line with what they were learning, and that we weren't actually doing things that we said we weren't doing. And the more I was going through the classes, I was like, oh my God, I'm secretly Catholic. Like that was like coming out.
Coming out as Catholic.
Like, no joke, me coming out as Catholic had far greater like ramifications in my life than me coming out as gay. Like,
that is so interesting, because like as an adult to come back, like most people, it's the opposite. It's like it feels oppressive when you're little, and then you're the exact opposite. So you probably found a really good Catholic church.
I was around a lot of really great people. My best friend at the time was Catholic, and she was like one of those people that you're just drawn to. She's so energetic and loving and amazing, and her faith was so strong, and her relationship with Christ was so strong, which you don't see a lot in the Catholic Church, right? you see more of like the rules, the regulations, and people that don't have relationship, they just follow religion.
Right.
And so she's also somebody that came to the faith late in life. And she was like all of the things that the preconceived notions I had about Catholicism in my head, she shattered them all. Wow. I was like, well, how about this? And she would give me an answer. How about this? Well, you worship this. She's like, no, we don't. And she gave everything in a simple, basic answer. And then my cousin, she asked me to be her son's godmother. And I'm like, but I'm not Catholic. She goes, it's okay. The godfather is. There's like, I don't know, some catch as long as one of them's Catholic. So
you're covered.
I went back to my friend and I was like, look, I'm about to be this kid's godmother. You need to teach me because I'm about to go to church and say that I'm going to help raise this kid in this faith that I don't understand.
Right.
So she gave me Catholicism for Dummies. Best book
literally
ever.
Really?
Literally.
I need to read this.
Literally, she gave me Catholicism and she said, look, I know this seems like it's a little bit silly, but this is one of the best books I've read. And I was like, all right, I'm down. It was awesome. I absolutely loved it. And
I wonder if, like, as me growing up Catholic, went to Catholic school, if I read that book, if it would feel different than what I remember.
I don't know.
Like, it makes me sad sometimes that I don't still have that. Like, that I loved going, like, the I guess what the going every week felt comforting to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, it's funny because anymore. I found more connection to God. I felt closer in my faith when I became Catholic. All of the things that the Catholic Church does that, you know, the non-denominational and the Protestant community kind of bashes are a lot of the things that connected me closer to God.
Okay.
And I was like, all right, like, but it's because I was going through the process where I understood why I was doing everything, right? The cradle Catholics, they stand up, sit down, say whatever they say. They don't understand why. They're just told this is what you do.
Right.
But I did it as an adult, consciously seeking out this new opportunity. And as I was learning and growing, I was falling more in love with it. The things that I struggled with my faith in all of the services I had ever gone to were suddenly answered in Catholicism. I was like, oh, this makes sense now.
Well, then, like, how do you reconcile? Like, this is a good, like, how I know that's the burning question of everybody out there. Like, if they don't support you being gay, like, you're not going to agree with everything. How do you reconcile that? Because I'm looking for that.
I think part of it is they don't really approve of like most things that we do as humans, right?
Yeah.
Like, we're not cool with a lot of the other sin that takes place in the world, right? I mean, there's a lot of other sin that is really talked poorly against. I think that for me, it's not it's not the faith so much as the people that screw it up. People are dumb and people screw things up. I think for me, what happened, and if you were in the faith community, when I started feeling the feelings I had, I tried to pray them away, for a long time. Because I came from a different background, I was very immersed in my faith. I was in my Bible daily. Right. I was in Bible study. I was in community with a lot of faith-based people. But and then I, of course, had this other like dark side brewing right inside me. Like, what am I going to do with this?
How old were you when that was happening? The brewing.
I mean, I guess growing up, there were many signs growing up. But I just always figured any connection that I thought I felt, I just attributed it to being good, close girlfriends.
Okay.
It wasn't something that I was really around. It wasn't something that I saw. I was in a pretty sheltered environment growing up with, it was like an upper middle class white community, right? There wasn't much diversity in any sense of the word. And so, you graduate, you go to college, you get married, you get 2.5 kids, white picket fence. Like it's what you do. And so I never even considered or explored anything else, which is funny because I went to college as a dual sport athlete. And I don't know if you know this, but there's a lot of lesbians in the athletic world in college.
That's true.
Not sure if you knew that. And that was like a totally foreign world to me. I was like, I didn't play softball, but I was friends with the softball team. And I'm like, wait, they all date each other. This is strange.
Yeah.
Maybe it wasn't. I don't know. Like,
for you, probably.
And so it was like, I was intrigued by it, but I also, I was that good, faithful person that I knew the talking points, and man, was I an ass. Can I say that on this show?
Yeah,
absolutely.
All right. I was the worst, right? Like I was, Saul before he was Paul. Like I was that one that said, I believe that you were born this way. I don't believe that you chose this, but you can choose how you act.
Ooh.
You can choose.
Oh.
Yeah.
I freaking said that to people.
It's like
out loud.
Right. Yeah.
A lot.
Wow.
The more I go through and the more podcasts and the people I talk to about this, right? Like this is better than therapy, let me tell you. And so it finally, like, I realized like I wasn't saying it to other people. I was trying to convince myself all along.
Yeah.
I was really fighting with me the whole time. Everything that I ever said. I remember sitting down. I was at a field hockey camp right before I was going away to college.
That sounds super gay.
Field hockey camp.
It was the gayest thing ever. Like literally everybody there. It was one of those Olympic development level camps right before college, and so it's all the top athletes,
all the top lesbians,
players,
all the top gay
pretty
women.
much. and like all of the college coaches were there, and as I'm there, like my one friend is like, well, that coach dates that coach, and this one's married, and I'm like,
oh my God,
you're like eyes wide open.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and I just remember sitting, like, you're in the dorm style, sitting on the bed with two of my friends, and we're talking through this, and we have this whole conversation, and my friend is like, because I'm like, I don't know about this, like, I'm not okay with this. I didn't play field hockey in college. That's not the reason. That's the one sport I didn't play. But I was like, I don't know if I'd be comfortable with that. And my one friend is like, well, what are you talking about? Like, that's how they were born, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, but they don't have to act on that. And she's like, well, so should they be miserable the rest of their life? Yeah. And of course I follow up with that good spiritual answer. Well, eternity lasts a lot longer than our happiness here on earth, right? Like, yes.
Damn.
Did I mention I was an ass? Like, I mean, I like look back and I was like, how did I have any friends?
Do
like,
you
but like the
now?
Thing is, that's ingrained in
it. Is ingrained in
like,
you.
I knew every talking point. I had an answer for everything. Again, I believe I was convincing myself. And so this friend is like, well, that's like ridiculous. My other friend, there were three of us. She is agreeing with everything I'm saying. Now, she went to Catholic school, so she knows all the talking points. And the two of us are like, no, like, you're better off just, repressing it. Yeah, guess which two are gay.
Oh, my God. Really? Her too?
Wow. That's amazing.
So my other friend that was with her bullet points, she's happily married to a woman. They've got two children. They did play field hockey in college, right?
Of course they did.
Yeah.
Did you? Are you still friends with
girls.
her? Are you still friends with her?
A little bit through social media, yeah. But yeah, it's funny. And the other girl, very happily married to a man, 3 or 4 kids, like, and I think both of us, we haven't actually had the conversation. I probably should reach out to her. But I really think that we were both convincing ourselves that that's not what we're supposed to have. It's not what we're supposed to believe. I know you want to know how I reconciled it with my faith, right? I think for me, what I did differently is, because my faith was so strong and I spent so much time in the Word and I spent a lot of time in prayer, really listening.
Right.
We're told and taught, and we're supposed to read the Bible. The Bible, yes, it's inspired by God. It was still written by man. We're supposed to interpret what it's saying and what it means for our life, not just blindly interpret, right? The Bible's a living and breathing thing. I can read one thing today, the same thing next year. It's going to look a little bit different, right? There's context that we have to put into it. A lot of the stuff that people go to speak against the gay community is Old Testament. It's all Old Testament scripture that's being utilized to say, God is very clear. Yeah, God was also very clear that we don't have tattoos, that we don't wear cotton, right? That's why Jesus came. He is the law. Like, that stuff is gone. And so while there are a few pieces in the New Testament, I don't trust government, and I'm not convinced that the government didn't change the Bible along the way.
Right.
To fit,
and I think too,
to fit the narrative.
I think one thing, like in talking to my family they're very religious, but even my mom would say, like, nothing's a perfect in politics or religion. It's like, there's no perfect candidate. There's no perfect religion. So if the whole body of work resonates with you for the most part, there can be a few things that don't resonate, and that's okay. Like, you don't throw the entire religion out.
Right. And for me, I really came, more scripture, everything that I read pointed to God doesn't fuck up, right? Yeah. Like, he made me who I am. He knew what I was going to feel. He knew what I was going to go through. He didn't make a mistake with me. And when I finally accepted that, I felt this overwhelming peace. And as soon as I felt peace about where I was like, okay, this is okay. Now, I'm not like going around screwing everybody. Like I'm not, I'm in committed relationships. When I'm in a relationship, that's who I'm with. And
how did you get to that point? Like, okay, you're Dawn, the straight girl converting or starting to have these feelings. Talk to me about that window of time and what that looked like. Who showed up? What happened?
I think the biggest thing was probably getting divorced from a man that I was married to for 16 and a half years.
And what did what did you label the divorce? What reason were you giving?
So at the time, I kind of knew at that point that I was gay. I had been done with my marriage many years before I said, look, this isn't working.
Okay.
He was military. And so we had a lot of issues for a long time. The military life is not a bad life, but there's a lot of challenges. And, he was gone cumulative, like for half of the time we were together. So we never really had an opportunity to work on things. And then we didn't. So my heart had grown tired and hard towards him years before, but I grew up in the church. I grew up in a community where you get married and you just make it work. You either make it work or you just stay miserable the rest of your life and you stick it out.
Right.
And I finally got to the point where it's like, I can't do this anymore. Like I'm too old for this crap. Like I don't want to live this way for the rest of my life. And I ended up having the conversation with him. At the time I wasn't out. I kind of knew, but that wasn't, if we were even friends, I'm sure we still would have been married. I would have sucked it up and done the right thing.
Right.
But for me, I did have a friend that she couldn't see me miserable anymore. She didn't know all of those pieces and was like, you need to do something. Like, we can't be friends. You either fix your marriage or you leave your marriage, but I can't see you this miserable forever. And that for me was really the moment that I panicked about losing that friendship more than fixing my marriage. I knew I had to be done.
And was that relationship with her, totally platonic? This wasn't somebody who you were interested in. This was just a friend.
Yeah. This is like somebody that we were super close for a couple years, and she's like, I can't do this anymore.
So there was no catalyst that like showed up and rocked things.
Little bits of catalysts, maybe.
Okay.
But yeah, it was really just knowing. And I think probably then, like, just everything clicked for me.
Right.
And I knew that so my ex-husband, that he's also the only man I've ever been with.
Oh my God.
I was a good, faithful girl.
Yeah.
Right. Like,
yep. You were walking the talk.
I will say I did not wait till marriage, but I was engaged for quite a while before anything really happened. Like I was, and so I think for me, part of it was I had no desire to be with a man. And so I knew, like, I didn't want to work on it with him. And I knew I wasn't interested in any other man. Okay. And I was like, I need to figure this out. I need to explore this. Once I knew for sure, I did have a small relationship that happened after that. And I was like, yeah, I need to figure this out. I need to come out about this. I thought in my mind that I would finally come out to the world when I found somebody worth coming out about.
Yeah. We hear that a lot.
And I was like, no, that's backwards as hell.
Right.
Like, I need to come out to my friends and my family, and like, I need to acknowledge it to me. That's how I'm going to find the person worth being with.
True.
Like, I can't do this thing in secret. That's not fair to them. That's not fair to me. And that's not fair to my family.
And it clouds your judgment. It clouds
everything.
I
didn't want to be hiding.
Yeah.
And of course, when I did finally come out, I've got such supportive friends and family, but like I said, I mean, you guys see me on video right now. There's nothing about me that screams straight. I have no gaydar, but people my entire life are like, yeah, you're gay. I'm like, no, I swear I'm not. Like,
really? People were saying that back then?
My entire life.
And then what was your husband? Was he like, God, this is like really annoying that people say this to you?
I'm not really sure. I think
he was in denial.
He had to have been.
Or did he know that people were saying that?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. So it was just really, it was definitely interesting. And when I did finally come out, I shared a picture on Facebook with the woman that I was dating at the time. And literally the post was the two of us super happy at the beach, like all smiles. And I said, now you know, and yes, I'm happy. That was my coming out post.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
now, like if you scroll my stuff, I'm usually pretty wordy. I say a lot. I was like, that was it. So we were sitting at dinner. I'm like, are you ready for me to post this? Because we're about to break Facebook. And she laughed and she was like, really? I'm like, Facebook's about to get blown up. So I posted it 10 minutes later. I'm like, for fun, can we just see where we're at? I mean, we were already at like 200 likes and that point.
Any religious like naysayers? Anybody out of your religious?
Course.
Yeah.
Actually, but that's one of my favorite pieces of my puzzle and my walk coming out. I ended up with over 300 comments, 800 likes, all this positive stuff. And I did have 2 women who I had been really good friends with throughout my faith walk reach out to me. I don't know if they were both phone. I feel like they were both phone calls. And the one was like, hey, like, I see that there have been some developments since we last talked,
Some
and
she said,
she said, I see that the response has been overwhelmingly positive, but like, I don't agree with this. I don't think this is right, but I'm not going to say that on your page. She's like, but I do want you to know that. She's like, I do love you, but I'm not okay with that. Right. And I told her, I was like, I didn't think you would be, and I would expect nothing different.
Yeah.
I had another friend, very, very similar conversation. Both of them were chaplain spouses that I knew. Both of them they were spiritual mentors of mine in the Protestant faith. And we had decent conversations. In the end, it was like, hey, like, I'm still praying for you. I still like love you. I'm like, that's awesome. Of course, other people are like, all right, yeah, where's the juice?
Yeah,
I was like, I had a couple people reach out. And so, friends get defensive. I mean, I could see visibly, you're like, oh,
yeah,
like, how dare they?
True,
right.
Right.
And so people got really pissed. I'm like, no, like, to me, that was the most loving, supportive thing that I could have experienced. One, they had the courage enough to reach out. They didn't do it as jerks. They did it in such a loving way. And when you grow up in a faith and you really believe that, and that's so ingrained in you that this is a sin that separates me from God and damns me to hell for eternity. If you really believe that with all your heart and you don't say something, like, to me, that's being the jerk.
I was going to say, like, is it better that they just walk away, or is it better that they make the phone call? And I think making the phone call is the right play.
I mean, and now granted, these are people,
but not everyone can handle that kind of phone call, though. Like, there's people that would like really crumble upon hearing that kind of thing.
I was thinking if someone had called me, I think I would have said, great, I'm glad to know, but nothing has changed. This is who I am, but thanks for letting me know. Bye.
And I think, I don't think everybody can handle that, but I also don't think I would have received it the same way if it was just some random person calling me trying to save my soul. These are people that I loved very much, who love me very much.
Right.
Who I had a relationship with. Like, they know where I'm at.
And they're doing it because they love you. I guess to Melissa's point, it's like they believe so strongly this is bad for Dawn that they care so deeply they have to say something.
I don't know, man. Like, is that caring? I don't know.
It's not. It's what they're capable of.
You're right.
Yeah.
But it's so harmful in my eyes. Like,
the way I look at it, right? If you're sick and you're dying of a disease that I literally have a cure for in my hand, and I don't offer it to you, is that wrong?
That's how they see it.
That's a stretch.
That's how they see it.
But that's also me, and like, I'm not like religious at all. Like,
right, and
I'm
somebody
more
reaching
spiritual,
and somebody reaching out to you in that wouldn't make sense. But because they know my faith background, because they knew me, and because I know them, to me, it was done in a super loving way. Do they reach out to everybody that's gay like that? No.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not jerks, but to me, like, they love me. They believe that, like, I don't want to say it's a sickness, right? Like that's not a great example to say this is a sickness, but they see that as something that is now, separating me from God. And that's the only way to heaven and eternal life in that faith. And I know that. And so to me, like I thought it was loving. They didn't try to debate me. It wasn't like, let's have a debate. And my friend was like, do you want to talk about this? And I'm like, nope.
No. Yeah. I'm steadfast.
And for me, the best answer was, I feel peace.
Yeah.
It's the first time, and I don't know how long, that I feel peace.
And if 2 out of the hundreds that were positive, that's also kind of a testament to where we are as a society.
Yeah. And I mean, the responses were hilarious. I mean, I had so many people like, I've been waiting 35 years for this. I've been waiting, like, they're like, I've known since you were in like kindergarten. Yeah. Like the comments that came through, I had people that I've never talked to, but that through social media, we've just been friends. They're like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I've been wondering when this was going to happen. I'm like, I have no idea who you are, but I'm glad that you knew too. Somebody include me in.
Sometimes that's offend. Like, does that offend you at all? Like when people,
no,
it doesn't.
You look at me. Come on.
But I do. there are people that said to me they knew, and I little part of me was like, really?
I feel like it's a little bit of a dig, as in like they want like some sort of like pat on the back, like they knew you better than you knew yourself kind of thing.
Maybe. I don't know. I mean, when people had like before I was out and, I was like, oh no, I'm not gay, or no, I didn't. And then they would feel horrible, right? It's like when you like, like say somebody that's a little bit heavier and you're like, pregnant. Oh my gosh, when are you expecting? Right. Like, they would feel horrible. And I'm like, no, dude, I get it. Like, I would think the same thing. Like, you're good. There's nothing wrong. Like, I never took it that way. I think, I was in the college world, so I was around a lot of women and I saw what a lot of them went through when they were coming out. I was in college over 20 years ago. So that time frame, it wasn't as accepted as it is now. And so,
right.
I did see that. And I had a hard time when I had friends that were coming out. One of my basketball teammates, we had this discussion right after I came out. She's very, very religious as well, grew up in the faith. She and I were trying to go to church together when we were in college, and she's happily married to a woman now and has beautiful kids. And she lost one of her best friendships her freshman year of college to a woman who came out, and she's like, I can't, like, she shut her out.
Wow. And now she's gay. So
and so when she came out and went through this process, they lost touch after that, but she was like, yeah, I can't be friends with you, right? Like really cut it out. And it's haunted her ever since. Like she hasn't been able to reconnect because we had this huge conversation. I was like, wow, like we were self-righteous jerks.
Yeah.
Like we really were. But we didn't see it that way. And that's where like these two women, like, I know where they're coming from, and I know that they really are coming from a good place. Whether I agree with them, yeah, I mean, obviously I don't,
right?
But I didn't take it in the negative way. I do love that everybody's like ready to like fight for me, though. That was pretty fun. They're like, oh, I'm gonna get them. How dare they tell you anything? And
I guess though too, it's like in the journey, you're gonna have people. I've done stuff in the past that I'm like, when my sister was getting divorced, I look back now. This was years ago. It's stuff I said regarding her getting divorced that I'm like, what an absolute jerk I was. Like I've told her, I'm like, I can't even believe I said that. But it's just
and the things that I used to say to Catholics when I was Protestant, I said the most horrible things to Catholic about their faith. Yeah. And then I converted. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Right. But it's just all you do what you know, and you grow and you learn, and then you add to that, that knowledge, and you do better.
Yeah. And as I got older, I think a lot of that reconciling was just being challenged and allowing myself to be challenged and pushed, and not just spew the crap that was thrown to me, but actually think about the crap that was being thrown at me. And, what do I think about it based on what I'm reading and I'm hearing?
Right.
And then what am I feeling? And that's where everything was like, no, like, this is who I am. I'm happy. This feels right. I'm going to go with it.
Well, tell us where you are now in that journey of coming out, because it hasn't really been that long at a year and a half.
It hasn't been that long.
Yeah.
I learned the wonderful world of online dating. Oh my God.
It's the not so wonderful world.
The not so wonderful world.
So I mentioned my ex-husband was my like one and only. So like I didn't ever really date dudes even. So now I'm like, all right, I want to find a woman. None of my gay friends knew anybody that was gay. I'm like, for real? Like, you don't know any single gay women.
Not one.
Then and then my one friend, she sends me like a Facebook profile. She goes, I was like, what is this? Like, what are you sending me? She goes, well, what do you think? I'm like, think about what? She goes, her, she's single. I'm like, oh God, no. And she's like, wow, you're very picky. I'm like, I've been married to a man for 16 and a half years. I think I need to be a little picky.
For sure.
Like, I have the right to be picky. So yeah, I went in the online world dating, and I didn't know how it works, like in general, but how does it work with women? I'm like, I know how I look. So are there certain expectations based on like, do I have to initiate conversations? Like, what does all this look like? I went through all these things. I had to learn a whole new vocabulary. There was a lot of things I didn't know. My sister had a blast with my online dating. I was like, oh my gosh, I just learned what this thing means. And if I die, can you please wipe my Google search history?
Clean out my drawers. Exactly.
Because I'm like, I don't know what this means. And I would Google it. And then there would be a description, but then there's always a video. And I'm like, let me see. Click.
Oh, now I know.
Yeah. So I was like, yeah, if you could like get rid of, and acronyms are different. I was like, I got to learn some stuff. But no, so right now we mentioned, Lisa, who I'm dating. She's the one that coordinated us even meeting. And yeah, like I'm just having a good time right now. And
amazing.
Yeah, we'll see where it goes. I do plan to eventually marry. One of, I think, the best things about getting divorced and getting alimony is I'm not allowed to marry for so many years or I lose my alimony.
So it makes
I think that was like, that was built in. I like that stipulation so I don't jump into anything crazy right away.
Yeah, you can learn about yourself and you're going to evolve tremendously. Like when I look back at when I first came out and who I am now, it's two totally different women.
Yeah, I think I'm growing into who I was before. Like I'm not like complete. I'm growing into who I was starting to be, and then I fell off track when I lost myself after college. I was a college athlete I was an athlete for my whole life, and when I transitioned out, I just really lost who I was. Like I lost my edge, I lost my grit, my fire. I was like a badass back then.
Yeah, and
then I got lost and
just did what society wanted. Like you said, you married the boy. Yeah. And
I married the boy when I was at my lowest. I was the heaviest I'd ever been. I was depressed. I was miserable. And he was like an out. Yeah. And at the time I cared for him and I thought I cared for him more than I did. And so then I just lost myself all along the way. And so now it's just really fun to meet some great people, learn this, like what goes on in this life.
Yeah. Love it.
Figure out what I like, who I like. I mean, my favorite was, when I first came out, I had a friend, like, she was like, hey, can I be your wingman? And I was like, I don't know if that works that way. Like, if you and I walk into a place together, I think they're going to think we're together.
It's true.
Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And then she's asking me like, well, what do you like? I'm like, I don't know. And she's like, well, what's your type? I'm like, I don't know. And so she's like, let's go walk the river walk. And so literally every single woman that passed us, whether they were with a dude or not at the time, she's trying to get a picture in her head who I like. And she's like, what do you think about her? How about her? Well, what do you like? I was like, I don't know.
Yeah, you've got it. And that changes too. It's like what I thought I wanted, I didn't.
Yeah.
So I think it all morphs.
I need an emotional connection. Like, dude, if you're hot, that does not hurt.
Yeah, yeah, that helps. But it's like, it's not gonna.
But I'm not like drawn to that. I'm not like, if you show me a picture of a beautiful woman, I can appreciate she's a beautiful woman, but that's not it. Like, I need to connect. And so for me, that was super hard. And then like we happened to pass one person. I looked at my friend and I was like, yeah. And she looks back at me and she said, really? I'm like, yeah. She goes, that surprises me. I said, that surprised the shit out of me too. Like,
yeah. See,
I'm like, I don't know.
It's so good to do that too. Cause like everyone I know says that. It's like who you think you're going to be, or like the picture in your mind, it morphs.
Yeah. And that like people ask like the craziest questions. Like I learned a lot of the online dating questions, and I started to learn who the bots were right away, or who were like the 13-year-old boys playing on a computer, like thinking they're fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, some of the questions that I was getting asked out of the gate, they're like, underwear. I'm like, what about underwear? They're like, well, what kind do you wear? And I'm like, what?
Like, yeah. Anyone want to know
I was
that?
like,
yeah.
That is 100% a fake.
It's a fake account.
I was like, no, but I was asked that by so many people. And I was like, really? Is that like, okay. trying to figure out, and then I was asked them a lot of strange questions. That's like a whole other day.
Well, I don't want to run out of time before we talk about your book. Tell us about Courage Rising and how people can get it.
It's on Amazon. It's not my coming out story. It's a personal development book on developing confidence through taking some courageous action. So of course in it, I talk a little bit about being gay. I don't go into the whole story, but that was the biggest piece missing, was me owning that and coming into alignment with that. So it's a step-by-step method on how to develop more confidence. You can get that right on Amazon. And then coming out next month, I have a book called Champion Rising, and it's all about surpassing goals, or crushing goals, surpassing limits, and embracing a winning mindset. And it's really taking the analogies from sports and how to improve your mindset based on all of those lessons learned and the things that I did as an athlete that have gotten me where I am now.
Oh, I love that. And I think
that's awesome.
For Courage Rising, to me, everything you said, it's so useful in a coming out journey, getting the courage to even start to say the words out loud, to getting on the dating profiles, to putting yourself out there. It's all part of courage. So I love that.
Yeah, and it's taking those scary steps. And, one of the biggest catalysts and the scariest thing I ever did was tell my husband I didn't want to be married anymore.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's like, in that, like, just, it was the catalyst for so many things. And it's so important. I was just literally floating through life. And now I have this completely different outlook, right? I think you guys, I haven't listened to the podcast, but you were talking about hope.
Yes.
Right. And hope moving forward. And it's like, I have hope again where I didn't before.
Yeah. It overcame the fear. So I love that.
So Amazon, and
we'll post it on our social media.
Audio version. You can get the audio version on Spotify. It just went live on Spotify.
Oh, amazing. I can do that while I'm working. I love it. I'll check it out.
Yeah, there is, and it will say right in it, there's a lot of questions. It's one of those, like, you've got to do the work.
Okay.
But there will be a link that will allow you to download a workbook that has all of the questions and everything. So as you listen,
right up my alley.
You can totally do all the stuff with it.
Allie loves homework.
I do. I love any kind of book that like makes me better or makes me evaluate I love that stuff.
It's a super short book. The audio version is less than 2 hours. I mean, you literally can sit and read it in like an hour and a half, but you've got to do the work if you actually want the change. Like, personal development book without putting in the action isn't going to get you anywhere.
No, I love it. Well, Courage Rising is the name of the book, and we'll post it on our socials. And Dawn, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Bye, guys.
Want to support the Lesbian Chronicles podcast? Rate us and write a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify.
We love listener feedback. If you'd like to share your story, email us at melissaandallie@gmail.com. That's Melissa, MELISA, and Allie, ALLI, @gmail.com. Or follow us on Instagram at Lesbian Chronicles.